Okay, now, this is how I wrote it up in my notes. And it says, what mass of potassium chlorate, and there it gives it, KClO3, would contain 40 grams of oxygen? This is from the tail end of chapter 2, that very last section we took, which was kind of other problems kind of stuff. Okay, well actually next to the last section. I think the last section was percent purity, so this is from next to the last section. Now, here's what I did when I wrote it on the board, that I took you through steps to get there. Of course, no steps there. Now, let's take a look. How is that one worded in the book? Emily, you want to read it for us? Just what the problem is.
Exactly what you have.
Exactly what I had, so I plagiarized. You can turn me in. Okay, so it's exactly like that. It's short to the point. Okay, now, the textbook in this section does this differently, and I think it's harder. If we'll go through this, I think we're going to be able to get there. But a little background that's not up there. Potassium chlorate is a fantastic source of oxygen in our laboratories, because you can just take some potassium chlorate, heat it up gently, and it decomposes or breaks apart. It gives you potassium chloride, a salt. Now this is the stuff that you buy in the grocery store called a salt substitute. You know, if you've got somebody that doesn't want too much sodium in their diet, regular salt is sodium chloride. So when you buy a salt substitute, actually it's another salt. Instead of being sodium chloride, it's potassium chloride. And potassium is supposed to be good for you as long as you don't overdo it. So you get potassium chloride, a solid. This started as a solid, so when you heat it up, if you got some way to collect the gas and not just let it out into the air, you're getting pure oxygen there. Now, this is just a little side strip. This stuff is so interesting. We used to do it all the time in the lab. It's perfectly safe unless this stuff, when you heat it up, you get it super, super hot. If it comes in contact with anything that's organic, like paper, paper towels, your hair, something organic, it's got carbon in it, it's explosive. Okay, now, we just have it in a glass test tube, but if students, are heating it up and they're anxious to go and they want to clean up, if they threw it in the trash too soon or into the solid waste too soon and it's still really hot, we could have a wonderful explosion. So you've got to be super careful with it, and we're not using it anymore just because there's the potential. But another little story. This is I heard this story from someone that worked for the FBI back in the early 70s. And this is before the Supreme Court ruling about abortion. Now, I do not want to get into a discussion about pro-life, pro-choice, pro-whatever. Just these are the facts. Okay, before the Supreme Court ruling in January of 1973, still there were a number of states where abortions were legal. Okay, well, there was a guy on the East Coast that was very unhappy with these women's clinics. And so somebody was bombing the women's clinics there in the Washington, D.C. area. Why the FBI got in on it? Because he worked in several different states. You know, there's Washington, D.C., and then there's Virginia, and so forth, all close around. Okay, what he was doing is he was planting his little bombs at night. He'd blow in a window, blow in a door. No one had been hurt by it because he was doing it after hours. Well, when the FBI got in on it, what this guy was using, he must have been a freshman chemistry student. He was using potassium chlorate. And then he was using, in making this homemade bomb, he was using a source of organic material. And he had to use a wick to get this, to light it and get out of there. He didn't want to have it explode while he's still on the scene. Okay, the FBI noticed every wick was out of this fabric that had the same pattern in it. So when they narrowed down who they thought was doing it, they had a search warrant for the guy's apartment. He had a pair of pajamas. One leg is missing. Okay? He had been making every wick. He was just working up the leg. He'd cut off a little strip. First bombing, cut off a little strip. Second bombing. It's from your dumb crooks, dumb criminal activity. Anyway, don't use your pajamas. I mean, don't go bombing anyway, but it's an interesting compound. interesting compound because we used to use it all the time until it got so much bad press and somebody might get the wrong idea and take some of it.